Oh, I got to get my slideshow up. Ha, 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 ha. Do my last minute thing here.
And your host again.
Okay, thank you very much.
No worries. Until we know the live stream's working, because it doesn't go until the class time starts now, which is good.
Oh, so the live stream's there, but it doesn't start.
It doesn't show on the TV. I'm not sure about Facebook, but GSU TV, it doesn't start until actually at the time.
I'm so glad to hear that. And also, I discovered last night that all of our live streaming videos now go to YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
So that's handier than telling people they could then. I mean, shouldn't that be what we tell them instead of telling them to go?
I haven't quite figured out how to access those, so I'm not sure I know that info.
Okay. I saw it last night. I'll see if I can drop that. If I can drop that link in a class note.
Okay. And we are on GSU TV, so we're good. And I hope you have a good class. Since you have Lester, I will head out.
Thanks. I've got Lester. I can do anything.
Exactly.
Can you make me co-host as well?
I will make you co-host.
Yeah, thanks. I'll be in the background.
Okay, great. Thanks, Lester. Hi, everybody. Good morning. Good morning, Claudia. Win. Is it Ina?
Yes.
And Greg, who's... Sorry, what's that, Ina?
I said, I'm amazed. People don't usually get it right.
Well, I'll tell you, I have an unusual last name, and it's been mispronounced my entire life, and my mother prepared me for that because I heard her spelling it on the phone when I was about 4 or 5 years old, and I knew how to spell my...
the first batch of vaccine today.
I knew how to spell my name very early before I went to first grade. I was of that batch of people who didn't go to kindergarten and survived anyway. So anyway, I really work at pronouncing names, and if I mispronounce it, please give it to me correctly. And believe it or not, some people can't even get my first name, which is unusual. Why? It's so phonetic. I don't know why they wouldn't get Russ, but anyway.
How do you pronounce your last name?
Eanes.
Okay.
And there are many common mispronunciations of it, and I get them all. And it probably is Portuguese, and the Portuguese pronounce it Janis. And I'm really looking forward someday to going to Portugal and plopping down my passport and asking the person at the immigration desk to say my name, because it's a common name in Portugal. So I'm looking forward to that. We got May and Edmund and Brenda and Johnny, Greg, Wynn. I think I've said a lot of your names already. Hi, Greg.
Hello.
Greg looked like he was outside about to polish up his car, but that's just a virtual background.
Yeah, it's part of my yard. Crepe myrtle.
Okay, we'll give a couple more minutes for people to join in here.
So Russ, how do you pronounce your name?
Eanes. And I'm not offended that I appreciate people asking me how to pronounce it. It's an unusual name. And that is very likely an anglicized version of a Portuguese name of Janis. Yes. We don't have actual proof, but my family's been here in the country for 300 years. And everyone has always pronounced it Eanes. I study this about spelling and pronunciation of names. I'm kind of a family historian. And difficult to pronounce or spell names are often simplified over time. There are people who are immigrants who came in the 19th century, and their name was anglicized right away. and they know how it was spelled in the old country. In my case, I have this name which is unusual to pronounce and spell, and has been spelled that way all 300 years, which makes us feel like it wasn't anglicized. But there's evidence that maybe the name was pronounced differently 300 years ago.
That's funny because yes, people do mispronounce names, and that's an important thing when you greet people, you know. And some people often find it offensive if you mispronounce their name, not just because you don't know, but just because you don't know, you know. Just ask, how do you pronounce your name? It's just respect.
That's
Courtesy.
right. Exactly. Say, look, did I pronounce your name right? I'm sorry if I didn't. That's a real simple thing to do. So
No, you did. You did.
this all started with Ina with getting her name right. So I'm glad we've launched into a great topic. And
Yeah.
this morning we've got pretty much everyone's name up here. Sometimes some participants just have their name as iPad or iPhone or something like that, and they usually rename themselves. We've got someone here named Glorious. That's great. And I want to welcome you all. Let's see, by a show of hands, you can raise, or if you're not on screen, you can raise a virtual hand. And you know what? Let's practice raising a virtual hand. You go down to the reactions at the bottom of your screen in desktop. And you can hit hand raise. And then you can raise it. All right, Claudia's got it. Great. Okay. That's how you can raise a hand if and at any time, on screen or not. What's nice about raising your hand that way is that it queues up people who have questions, so you can kind of get in line for asking it. Great. And then you just Ina, you did an applause, which I appreciate. But if you look down a little bit more, there's a little thing on there that says they look just like each other. This is his raise hand like that. So that's how you raise a hand. Then if you click on it, you can lower your hand.
I cannot see the one to raise hand.
That's okay. Either by if you're on screen or if you're off screen, can you raise your hand if this is your first Get Set Up class?
Oh, yes, hang on.
I think if she's using the Samsung tablet, you go into more.
No,
Say chat.
I'm not updated. I have to raise my hand over here.
Okay.
Great, you did it. Yay, super. You got that hand raised. Well, you know, it's
The updated version is in reactions, but I didn't update evidently.
okay. Okay. Very good. So again, I know some of you got your hand raised for practice, so you can lower your hand. But anybody, this is your first Get Set Up class.
Yes. All right. Great.
So we have nobody new this morning, which is fine. I often have somebody new. Let me also ask, how many of you use Word already? This is a class. Okay, a lot of you use Word. Good. So could you do me a favor? By the way, if you could put into chat 2 things you'd like to learn today. Okay, we'll put chat 2 things you'd like to learn today about Word. And this is a basic class, so we will be talking about how to create a file and save it and some basic formatting, but maybe there's something you want to learn, like how to make 2 columns or how to do bulleted lists or something like that. Some of that stuff we will cover. But then if I see several people want to learn something and I wasn't necessarily going to show it, I can show it to you. I love to teach to the needs of learners. So if you have something particular you'd like to learn, I'm happy to do that for you. And we'll just. Ella, did you have a question or a comment, or were you volunteering that this is your first class? Okay, I'll go ahead and lower your hand. I want to welcome everybody today to this Word Basic class. It's a relatively new class. This might be only the second or third time I've taught it, and we just started teaching it. I'm a regular user of Word myself. I'm a writer, and so I've been using Word. It is the Microsoft application or program which I have been using the longest. I first used Word in the early 90s. I want to say about 1992 or something like that, when it was relatively new. Okay. Oh, I need to make you co-host, Lester. There we go. There you go. Your co-host. Thank you for reminding me. There we are. Gloria wants to know how to close a file without having to close the application. I can show you that very easy. When I hit the X in upper right-hand corner, the entire application closes. And I'm assuming you're working with a PC, not a Mac, because a Mac has a slightly different way of doing it. But I used to work in a PC environment. Again, if you would put into the chat, please, 2 things you'd like to learn today, and that way I'll try to make sure I can cover those things for you. And you never know, maybe you'll stump me with something I don't know how to do. I don't know how to do everything in Word, so there's a good chance that I won't be able to help you, and maybe someone else in the class will. Again, 2 things you'd like to learn today. I'm going to go ahead and start by sharing my screen, and I'm going to go through a few things about Word, and then I'm just going to go straight into a demonstration of Word, and kind of a hands-on. Everybody see something that says Word Basics? All right, we're all on the same virtual page. That's good to know. And I am your guide, Russ Eanes. I'm from Harrisonburg, Virginia, which is in the lovely Shenandoah Valley of Western Virginia, not West Virginia. West Virginia is just a few miles over the border. We're nestled between the Blue Ridge and the Allegheny Mountains, and it's a beautiful morning here. We've got sunshine after an overcast and a bit rainy couple of days. I'm a writer, a walker, and a cyclist. I formerly was a book publisher, where my favorite thing was to help authors shape their ideas into a book. I'm now a full-time guide with Get Set Up, and I love the energy I get from working with you all. You have a lot of wisdom to impart, and so please share that wisdom this morning. If there's anything that I don't cover that I don't know how to do and you know how to do it, please share that with all of us. Get Set Up helps you learn lots of useful skills. We're all folks just like you, so we're learning from each other. And in these classes, ideally, our cameras are on. We can see you. You can see us. You can request a recording of this class afterward by emailing help@getsetup.io. But there is also now a Get Set Up TV that goes out to YouTube. So if I can find that link, I'll send it to you after the class in your class notes, and you'll know how to retrieve and watch this class and about 100 other classes and Get Set Up that you may have missed. If anyone's joining by live stream, the best way to participate is to join us and to register for a class. And I hope to see you in some of those classes. The nice thing about being live is you can ask questions and we can answer you. By the way, Get Set Up's not paid to promote any specific products, so we're not being paid by Microsoft to promote this today. Our agenda, we're going to talk what Word is and how to get access to Word. We're going to talk about how to create and save Word docs. I'm going to give you a tour of the main menus and ribbons. That's one thing very important to remember, our main menus and ribbons. That's all Microsoft products. And I'm going to show you how to do some basic formatting of documents. And again, if you have things you want to learn, please put them in the chat today, and I'll see if I can cover them. I'll just do one more check here. How do you change the font size? Yes, we'll make sure we do that. We'll show you how to change font size. Someone wants to know, how do I include a photo along with a message in Word when I send a message? Please, I can show you how to put a photo in. That is a nice thing to be able to do. Gloria says, I often set custom margins. Is there a way to save the settings so I don't have to reset them every time? You can create defaults for your documents in Word. Yes, you can do that. I can show you how to do that. So let's talk a little bit about what Word is. It is an industry leader for nearly 30 years in word processing. I think I mentioned that I've been using it for nearly 30 years. I think 1992 or so is about the first time I used it. So that's closing in on 30 years. And you know, it's not all that different than when it was back then. It's still a basic word processing program. It's Google Docs is gaining in popularity, and it's easier to share with other users. And by the way, Google Docs is free, which is one nice thing about it. Of course, you have to have a Gmail or Google account, but those are free. How do you get access to Word? Well, you can get it partly as part of Microsoft 365. That subscription is $69.99 a year, or you can subscribe monthly. I have a monthly subscription. I think it's $6.99 a month, so that's a little more expensive. That subscription does include Word, Excel, PowerPoint. You get OneDrive with 1 terabyte of storage. It can also be available as a monthly subscription for $6.99. So you can do it either way. I'm going to stop this part and I'm going to just go right into Word and show you how to open and edit a document. So I've got something here I was using the other day. This is just a little document, and I'm going to go ahead and start a new one. So this is the general Word ribbon. I'll come back to that in a minute. But to start a new document, you go to here's Word up here, File, and you hit New. Okay, and there are 2 ways you can do a new document. You can do it just new document, and it'll give you a blank like this. Bing, there's a blank. Looks like a blank sheet of paper. That's how you do a new document. You can also do something. You can File, New from Template. So Word has lots of templates of documents, and here you can see a lot of them. Let's say you want to do a calendar. I think a very common thing is people want to create a resume. They have all sorts of resume styles that you can choose from, and the way they work.
Excuse me, Russ, we can't see where you are.
Oh, I beg your pardon, everyone. Let me go back and reshare. That's my bad. Let me do this again. Thank you for calling that. Okay, let's go back and we'll do share screen again. I must have done the wrong share screen. Okay, let's try it now.
That's better.
Now do you see Word?
Yes.
Hooray. My apologies, everyone. Thankfully, we didn't get too long. I'm going to show you again how I got here. So I've opened Word, the program, the application. And the top left, there's Word, has all sorts of stuff about Microsoft Word. But the file is where I'm starting on. So the file menu, and I've got new document or new from template. I've clicked on new from template, okay? And that's how I get this array of all the templates that Word has. And there's lots and lots of them. There's more than what is showing here. These are, for example, resumes, newsletters. By the way, these newsletters are kind of fun. Let's say you want to send out an annual newsletter to your family and you want to use the model that they have here. There are different styles of papers you could write. No, I'm presuming there's no one here writing a college paper anymore. There are business letters. There are down here recipes. You can do a trip journal. That's kind of fun. That shows you how to insert photographs into it. So there's all sorts of fun templates. If you know a particular type of document that you're wanting to create, you can do it with a template. But again, we're just doing a blank document. So I click on blank and it pulls up. I'm going to close this one right here because I already had one open. So here's a blank document, what it looks like, okay? Looks like a nice, clean, crisp sheet of paper that you're going to write on. And, it always defaults by starting in the upper left-hand corners, WARHERE. Okay, weird. So anyway, that's how it looks. Now let me give you a little tour of the menus and what's called the ribbon. So this down here with all the icons, this is called the ribbon. Let's get this moved up a little bit. And up here, these are your these are your menus. And if you click on one like file, you get all these options. Like, again, that's where I was, where I did the new document, where you can save, you can do print, you can find the properties of a document. Anybody ever wondered where the document is that you're working on? Well, you click on properties and it'll show you where it is. Mine hasn't been saved anywhere, so it doesn't have any file path. But if you start one, and you save it, it'll show you where it is. I cancel out of that. You've got the edit menu, which has things that where you can undo and redo. Of course, you have icons that'll do that for you much easier. You can do paste. You can also do find. By the way, find is a really powerful feature in, it's also Excel, but in Word. Let's say I do this as a writer. Let's say someone points out to me that I've misspelled a location, the name of a location or a river or something like that. I can search for it in my document and I can change it. I can even have it where it automatically correct all of those for me. View, which tells you the view of what you're going to be seeing here on screen as you're working. Then there's an insert, all the millions of things you might want to insert, from pictures to shapes to breaks and footnotes and captions and a watermark. You might want to put a watermark behind it, like says draft or something like that. Then you've got a whole formatting menu. I'm showing you these menus very briefly because all of them are duplicated down here in the ribbon. And I think that most of the time you'll find yourself simply working in the ribbon. This is what this is right here. Now below it, there's another set. These are all your ribbon options. So this is called the home ribbon. That's why home is underlined. If you click on the insert ribbon, you'll now get a whole different set of options. We'll pull up in the ribbon here. There's a draw ribbon, I don't ever use that. There's a design ribbon, which this is where you can set styles for all of the document, what kind of, and it'll automatically format the pages and sections according to those styles. That's kind of an advanced feature. I'm not going to show you that this morning. Then there's the layout, and that's where you can set all the page functions, the page parameters, the margins, your spacing, your indentations, all that can be set here in the layout. Then you've got references, and this is where you can insert things like citations or footnotes. Then there's mailings. This is very, very advanced feature where you can do mail merges with address database. Won't show you that this morning, but that's all there. Word is very powerful. I like to say it's like flying a 747. It's got a lot to learn. Then there's the review, which is also a very handy feature. If you want to track the changes that you've made in a document, I use this as a writer, and I also edit for people. I put on track changes when I do editing, and that way all the changes I made can be seen by people. Again, it's an advanced feature, but I want to just let you know that it's there. And then there's a view, and this is handy. This tells you what you're seeing here on the screen. And the one here that I really only tend to look at is print layout. So this tells me over here, and I have it set for print layout. In other words, you can see the piece of paper. This is what it's going to look like when it's printed out. So that's clicked on here. I can do a web layout if I want to think about what it looks like on a web page, but I'm not doing that. We'll go back to print layout. And then you can zoom in and out. And I find this very helpful, by the way, because I don't like it when this is at 200%, which is, believe it or not, that looks like the size of a piece of paper. I guess it's a little bit big, but you know, if you want to see more or less, you can set it down to 150%, see it shrank a bit. I like that 200% because it's really easy for me to see. I like it like that. If you shrink it down, you can see more of the whole sheet of paper, what the print will look at like when you're doing it. So that's why you might want to make it smaller. But let's go back to the home ribbon, because the home ribbon really has most of the stuff you'll ever need. See, it has a bit of that design here. You can set different designs, how you want your headers to be or the body of your text. Again, that's an advanced feature, which I'm not going to show you. But over here are the main things you use in your when you're formatting or working with any Word document. You've got your paste, and then you have something called paint. Bit of an advanced feature. If we get to it today, I can show you a little bit about paint. But the main things you're looking at here are fonts. Okay, so here's your font menu, and if I click on it, it says that I'm at the one that's checked is the one I'm doing, which is Times New Roman. That is the most common font in the English speaking world. And one nice thing about Times New Roman is that everybody has it. And so if you use Times New Roman, other people will open they'll be able to see it when they open your document. Times New Roman is also very readable. And I was telling people something in a previous class about something about serif and sans serif fonts, and serif fonts are the ones that have the little things on them. They kind of lead, the little squiggles and the little underlines and the little things at the top. That's what makes it something readable. And sans serif doesn't have those. If you're printing something out, it's easier to read something on paper if it is serif. So that's I'm a Times New Roman. Now, if I want to change the font size, I've got to highlight everything I want to change. And so right now, if you look here, it says it's at 12. And if I want to make it bigger, I can click on 16, and now it's made whatever I've highlighted bigger. Those are your fonts. If I want to make it bold, I go down here and I click on bold, and it's bolded now. If I want to make it italic, I can press on italic. It will make it bold and italic. If I click on underline, it's now bold, italic, and underline. I hope you get that caught your attention, bold, italic, and underlined. That's a little too much for me. I think I'll click off the underline and I'll click off the italic right there. Moving on to the right, some more very common options. This is a highlighter. So you kind of like highlight in a color anything that you click on. So I just clicked on yellow highlight. So now it's highlighted yellow. I don't want that to stay that way. So up here at the top, you have your do and undo arrows. So I'm going to click on here, undo highlight. Now it took it away. See this up here? This is the undo and this is the redo. If I change my mind, I think I would like that highlighted. You click on the redo arrow right there. So undo, redo. Very simple way to correct any of your work. Two other little things that are up here is the save. Very important to save your work. And there's the home, brings you back to home. And there's a little printer icon. Those are the most common things people need to do when they're editing. So Microsoft has handily put them up there at the very top so that they're there always for you to see. Continuing on to the right, I'll do one more thing here, then we'll pause for any questions. This is the font color, so you can change it. If I want, these are a myriad number of colors of fonts. Why you would want to choose so many of them. 1 second, Edmund, I'll get right to your question. Why you want to choose all of them, I'm not so sure, but if say you want to make it red, you can click on that. Now it's turned red. Edmund, do you have a question?
No, I actually have something I'd like to add. When you create documents, and especially if it's an extensive document or important document, you want to, as you go along, continuously save it, because sometimes people will hit the wrong button or something will happen and you'll lose your whole document. So you want to try to constantly back it up so you have it in case something happens.
Very important point. Save your work, save your work, save your work. Microsoft will save this. You can set up an autosave and it will frequently autosave for you, but those autosaves may not be continuous. So there might be a period of time where you have lost something. And I've had computers run out of power and suddenly kaboom, there it all went. And if I hadn't saved it, I lost it since the last time I saved it. Very important point, Edmund. Thank you for bringing that up.
Excuse me, where is the autosave? This is Joanne.
Well, this right here, you hit save, and autosave is a function which has to do with your version of Word. And there is a default that it saves it pretty frequently by itself. So I'm not actually sure how to change the I'd have to go into the preferences probably and see what the autosave is here. Right there. Let me show you this again, everybody. Okay, I'm going to just click that. So I went to Word, Preferences. So I'm in the main menu. This is for the whole program. Word, Preferences, and I came down here and I found this icon that said Save, and turn on autosave by default. So mine now is on autosave. It says when autosave is on, files in OneDrive for Business, SharePoint are automatically saved as changes are made. I don't use OneDrive. But it says down here, save every 10 minutes. So if I want that to be more frequent, like every 1 minute, I can go down here and I can change that to 1 minute, and it will save it, auto save for me. But again, that's only 1 minute, and you can type a lot. You can make a lot of corrections and changes and deletions in a minute. So even with that, Edmund is right. It's always worth it to save it. This hasn't always been a function in Word. There are older versions that may not have it, but it's been around for a while.
Thank you.
So that's a good place just to say that. Kind of again, it will save the last. It'll save it every minute, but like I said, you can do a lot of changes and you can delete a document in a minute. There's a lot, you can delete half of it. You can make a lot of changes in 1 minute. Okay, I'm going to close that. Thanks for bringing that up, Edmund. I was glad I could show you all where to set that.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Back here, so I've shown you the basic fonts, and Word has 1 million fonts. I'm using that by exaggeration. There are hundreds here, and it'll boggle your mind. And you can spend all day playing with it if you like. You can see what Noto Sans Old Turkic looks like. I have no idea, though they tend to look something like what they look like on screen. Right here, that little cloud thing means you have to download that font from the cloud. So it's not installed right now. You'd have to go out and get it. Times New Roman is common. I'm an old-fashioned font guy, so if I'm going to use a sans serif font, I love Helvetica. It's a very old, common, typical kind of font. I'll change this to Helvetica just for fun. There it is. So those little things on each of the characters, each of the went away. I'm going to change it back to black. And if you click on automatic is black. So it doesn't look like anything, but click on it, it makes it black. Unless you have a color printer or are intending to share this with someone, they're going to see it on the screen and see the colors. The colors may not stand out. And I'll be honest, other than red and black and maybe green, it's fun to have all those fonts, but if they're on a black and white printer, they won't show up, and they may not show up on screen as well as you'd like. So I've got my header here. And then going on down, let me do a little more typing, and then I'll show you some other things you can do with font with some of the other parts of the bar. So I'm going to hit the carriage return now. I've gone down. Oh, my keyboard's not plugged in. I had a carriage return. Now here's what happens when you hit a carriage return. It carries whatever formatting was at the end of the line before it into the next line, which is normal. So I had a Helvetica 16 point to carry that into the next line. But if, let's say, that was my header and I wanted to have some smaller fonts, now I've got to go up here and change. Let's change it back to a 12. So now whatever's coming after it is a 12. So it's Friday morning and we are in a class. This is a Word class. Okay, typed a little bit of things here. Now I looked at that and I go, oh, you know what? That's bold. I meant for that not to be bold. So I go out here to the left. See my arrow on my font on my cursor out here. I click to the left of the margin. Now it highlights the whole line. And I can go up here to bold and click it, and it will take the bold off of that. And let's say, I didn't really mean for the main text to be Helvetica. I want it to be Times New Roman. I go up here and I click on my fonts. And what's nice is Word will preserve, since you've had the program open, it keeps track of all the fonts you've used. Okay. So I can go back to Times New Roman if I want to. I'll click on that. Now it's going to make that Times New Roman. So that's I don't have to scroll through all the fonts to find Times New Roman again, because it has this, it keeps track of recent fonts that I've used. By the way, here's a fun one, American typewriter. I like it. I actually have a typewriter. I do type some things.
So do I.
I love the American type, but I'm gonna change that back. So I'll hit the undo. There we go, undo. Now it's changed back. Remember, see, I've got everything highlighted here in blue, so it's gonna change the formatting of anything that I have there. Okay. Now let's say I want to start doing a list of things we're going to learn. So we will learn today. Now I'm going to create a list. So up here, now this is a formatting section where you've got some various things. And a lot of people, like a lot of us, use bulleted lists or numbered lists. So I'm going to make this a numbered list, which is this one right here. So I click on it and it automatically indents and give me a 1. We're going to learn formatting, just printing, fonts. Okay, so every time I hit a carriage return, it defaults and it just continues on a list as long as I have it there. Now, when I want to stop the list, I have to delete that. And on a Mac, I'm using a Mac, I just hit the delete key, which backspaces it also. And then I can backspace again. It'll take me out to my margin. I hit a return, it takes me out. So that's that's how you can stop it from doing bulleted or numbered lists. And let's say, I don't really want those to be numbered. The numbers aren't important. I want it to be bulleted. So I can come up here and I can click on the bulleting icon. And let's say I don't like that style of bullets. I want one that's a circle, a hollow circle. I can do that. You can change the styles of those to look different. Down below here also, we have, you can set how the text is on your page. So I'll highlight this here again. So right now it's justified left, which is normal. You can center it, which is this one right here. Now it centers anything that's highlighted, or you can make it justify to the right, or you can make it spread out over the whole page or the whole line. It's not going to do that because it's just got that much there written there. So that's how you do that. Again, normally we want to have justify left. Going through here, there's a couple more things that are handy. I'm going to point out this little formatting icon up here and get this out of the way so I can hit that. That shows you where your carriage returns are. Okay, and it also gives you an idea. So like you can turn it on, you can turn it off. I find it kind of annoying to create a document with it on because it's just kind of stuff on the screen. That's not printed, by the way. This is just formatting. But sometimes when you're looking at a document, you're thinking to yourself, how come that spacing is the way it is? If you click on that, it'll show you if you have these carriage returns in there right there. And it also shows you indents and tabs. That's a little arrow thing right there. It shows you this has been tabbed in five spaces, the bulleted points. And then you can see I put a couple more carriage returns. As I keep on hitting carriage returns, it'll add them there like that. I can see them. If I want to make them go away, I click on that, they disappear. But it's a very handy thing to see what your formatting looks like. If you add a page break, it will show you the page break, or a column break is there as well. Another thing you can do, let's say under It's Friday Mornings, I'd like to have a line because I want to draw a line under that. I go up here, that's what this little box does. I've just drawn a line there. And these are all the different kinds of borders you can do. I clicked on bottom border, but then I just make it go away by clicking on no border. But let's say I want it to be a top border. I click on top border. Now I've got a line all the way across. It's a nice thing to do. I use it in resumes, but sometimes when I'm doing notes for something on a class I've taken, I'm a student too. I'm a student of writing, or I'm working on a document, notes for myself for something. I like to put lines in there so I can separate sections of the document. Very handy little thing to have. Now, one other thing I want to show you, and this is important. I'm going to go down here and type a little more text. So these are the times that try men's souls. You may remember that from the old typewriter days. I'm going back nearly 50 years when you were testing out typewriters. This was a standard typewriter thing. These are the times that try men's souls. Okay. And what I can make that cat. Am I writing today? I don't. Okay, so I've now put these just 3 lines in here. These are just 3 standard lines. And if I want to change the spacing on my text, this is an important thing you want to check. I highlight the area that I want to change the spacing on, and then I go up to this little icon right here. All right, now it gives me some line spacing options right away, and it's set toward 1.15 spaces. Okay, that's how far apart they're spaced. The old typewriting, you could single space like this, or you can double space. Again, these are the olden days of the typewriter. This is how we're thinking about this. So those, now it's double spaced. That means it's spacing them 2 lines apart. See, there's no carriage return in between these. It's just spacing them farther apart. If you don't like those options, I'll go back. 1.15 is kind of a comfortable, it defaults to that because it's a very comfortable spacing to read when you're looking at something. Sometimes single spacing can be too tight and harder to read. But let's say you don't like those options. You go down here to line spacing options, and now you've got the box that can do everything. So, okay, I'll show you that again. You go up to this little icon and go down here to this little line that says line spacing options. Click on it. And now you've got your whole paragraph spacing options. And this is pretty much everything. You can set your indents to the left or to the right. You can do alignment. Left is the same thing I was showing you. There were icons for: left, centered, right, or justified. Okay, it's set left. So this is kind of like a dialog box that will do a lot of the things that are in the icons. And down here is where you can set your spacing before and after. And sometimes, like when I edit documents for people, I find the way they've formatted it kind of hard to read. So I've had to go in and change the formatting a bit so I edit on paper, by the way. I print a whole manuscript out when I edit it. And you can set your spacing before or after a line here. So this is additional. This is different than the single or double spacing. This just shows you how many spaces there are between each of the lines that you've set in that document. Again, not your single space or double spacing. This is how many points there are between. Okay, because it says 0 point. Fonts, type anything that's a typed font, whether you read it in a book or on a Word document. Its size is they're called points. Okay, and that's from the old-fashioned days when printers printed with little lead pieces they put in a printing press, and those were different point size. That's how they measured them, was by point size. So right now it says there's no points before or after. In other words, it's just the standard spacing. And what's the line spacing is multiply. Again, you've got these options over here: single, 1.5. That's how it's going to set the spacing. Can be a little confusing. I don't spend a lot of time in here because it's easier just to stick with the default that they give you, which is to set it right here, 1. If you want to get more on a page, let's say you're printing this for somebody and you'd rather print just one, maybe you've got enough stuff that you can get on one page. If you squeeze it, that's a good way to do it. Let me pause for questions here, or ask if there's any questions. There must be some questions in the chat. Someone asked about line spacing. Glorious was asking about custom margins. Can you set those as a default? We'll check that out here in a minute. Cynthia, I hope I answered your question about line spacing. Let me know if I didn't.
Yes, thank you.
And cut and paste. Oh, very good one. Okay, cut and paste. So let's look at cut and paste. Let's say I want to put this line. These are the time the trimensols down here below this one. So on a Mac, it is Command C. I think on a PC, it's Control C, and that will copy it. And then I can paste it in down here. So now I've got it twice. But let's say, oh, I didn't want to copy it. I want to just get rid of it and move it from one place to the other. So let's back up. We'll hit undo. Okay, let's highlight that again. And I hit Control X or Command X. Now that cut it, but it put it on the clipboard. So when I cut it, it kept it on. It hasn't disappeared. I haven't deleted it. And then I do Command V or Control V, and that pastes it back in place. It's a very handy way to move stuff around in your documents. You can also do it with a mouse. So I go over here and I right-click my mouse, and I can do cut, and then I do not right-click again, paste. Sometimes it's a faster way of doing it if you use a mouse. Let me show you one more thing. Let's type a line here that says, is everyone understanding this? Notice that I misspelled a whole bunch of words, okay, because I was typing sloppily. Well, Word very handily has told me that I have misspelled them. Now it doesn't know what to do with TGHS. It's like, I don't know what to do with that. So it hasn't even underlined it. If it thinks that this is a misspelled word, I go over to it, I hover over it with my cursor and I right click on it, and right up there is the correct spelling, everyone. And I click on it and it corrects it. Same thing over the word understanding. I right click and then I scroll up here. I find the correct word. And then I do the same thing. And now look, it says, well, did you mean to say thus or this or tights? See, it's giving me some options. Is everyone, let's say I did, is everyone understanding tights? So I could choose that option. Now, here's another thing that you could be doing. Let's say you're creating a document and you've got the name of a river. So I am on the river Nive. Neve. Sometimes when Word comes across, when Word sees something that it thinks you've misspelled, like Nive, it wants to save, it wants to change it. Nave, Nivea, naive. But actually, this is the real name of a river in France. I know that because in the book I wrote about Walk the Camino de Santiago, I talked about crossing the river Neve and I misspelled it, but Word didn't know. So I went back in, I corrected it, and the correct spelling is Nive. But Word doesn't like that. It says, no, that's a misspelled word. Well, this is a very handy thing you do. I right click it, and here again, it gives me the options to change it, but I'm like, nope, I don't want to change it. I can ignore it. And then it'll just ignore it for the time I'm using that document. But next time, if I save it and open it up again, it'll say, now you've misspelled that word. So what I can do is I can go down here and I can add it to the dictionary. So if you are writing a document and you are going to be frequently using a word which has a different spelling, or maybe it's an abbreviation of something that you want to be using in a document. Let's say you've got an organization that's the Allegheny Trail Alliance, ATA, and the Word doesn't recognize that, but you want it to be there. You can add it to your dictionary, and Word actually will build a dictionary for you. And it's a custom dictionary. And I really like this. As a writer, I use it a lot because I use acronyms, and abbreviations that the Word may not recognize. And I put them into the dictionary. And that serves two purposes. One, it will keep Word from trying to autocorrect it for me. But the other thing is, if I happen to misspell that abbreviation or that acronym, Word will recognize, hey, you didn't do that correctly. You should change it. And I found that when I was writing a book, it was very handy to put in a lot of terms and place locations that were kind of unique because maybe they were French or Spanish or something like that, or they were an abbreviation for something that Word wouldn't recognize. I could put them in there in the dictionary, and Word could recognize that I had misspelled my abbreviation or that place word. So I can add it to the dictionary right like that. Now it will leave the river Neve alone. Any questions about anything I've covered so far, and anything you'd like me to show you, because we've got about 5 to 10 more minutes total, and I want to make sure I don't that I cover anything you want me to cover. So again, if I wanted to save this document up here, I can go to save. Let's say I want to give this a name. Okay, so right now, see up here, the name just says document 9. And every time you open Word and you start a document, it defaults by calling it document 1. All right. And if you start another document, it defaults to call that document 2. And then the next one is document 3. And if you save them and name them, then it'll give them the new names. You close Word, come back to Word 2 days later. When it opens up, it starts again in document 1. But you can see I've had Word open for quite a few days, and I've started all sorts of documents, and now I'm up to document 9. In all Microsoft products, whether you're using Word, Excel, PowerPoint, or anything, if you have multiple files or documents open, you can click on the window and it'll show you which ones are open. You can see I've got documents 6, 7, and 8 already open, plus I have 3 that I have named, all open. And these are all, I can just, by clicking on them, I can switch over to them. If I want to do Great Allegheny Passage class notes. This is a class I taught the other day about writing the Great Allegheny Passage. This is where I save my class notes. Yvonne, you have a question?
Yeah. How do you include a picture?
Yes, thank you. You asked about that. Very good. Let's go to that. So let me go back to the document we're working on. Let me save it, and then I'll show you how to do a picture. So we're going to call this one, I go up here to File. I do Save As because I like to name it. And here's a funny thing, or nice thing that Word does, actually does in Google Docs too. It takes the first line that I typed and it says, would you like to call it that? And I find that when I do Word documents, I put the title of what I want the document to be in the first line. And then when I click on Save As, it will automatically save that document to the name, whatever I've typed in the first line. So I would just do Save, we are here. I'm actually not going to save this document because it's just for this class, but I would click on Save and it would be saved. And here's, I'm using a Macintosh. So this shows you, this is how it looks, where it's going to save it in a file called Get Set Up. I'm just going to click Cancel because I'm not going to save that at the moment. Very good question. So I want to insert a photograph. So I'm going to do a right click, and let's say I want to put it right there. I go to the Insert menu and I go down here, and there are different ways you can do that. You can insert a picture, you can insert a shape. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to insert a picture. So the first thing on there. So it says, where do you want to find this? Do you have a photo browser? Do you have a picture from file, a stock image? Let's go out and let's pull a picture from a file. And so now it gives me my entire menu of everything. And I've got this folder called Desktop Stuff. And let's find a photo down here. No, let's not do that. Let me go into my pictures down here. Let's find one from the pictures. Last time I was scanning around for a photo, I picked up a photo of my driver's license. That wasn't very smart. We'll see what this one is right here. Let's insert this picture. Okay, that's a picture of me from a long time ago holding a camera. So I just put that in. All right. Let's go to Insert Pictures. Now, let me show you something a trick you can do with this picture. If that's too big or too small, what you can do, Yvonne, is you go down here to the bottom corner. Always do it by the corner. You don't want to grab the bottom because that will stretch the picture out and deform it.
Okay.
If you grab any corner, and I always do in the bottom right corner, you can take it, you can drag it like this, and you can resize it to make it as big or small as you want. So always drag by the corner, draw it a diagonal from one corner toward the other corner, and now you can insert it in there. Now here's one little thing that was very important was I inserted that photo in between two carriage returns. That way my cursor now appears below the picture and I can keep on typing. This was me decades ago. And I misspelled decades, so I go back over here, right click on it. It said, did you mean to say decades? And yes, I did. So I just corrected my spelling. I won't show you this at the moment, but you can play around with photos. And if you click on, if you highlight it, there's all sorts of different ways you can do the layout. If you go to layout, you can set, it's right here. It's if you click on it, there's this wrap text. There's different options for how you can wrap the text around a photo. I won't show you those today. Those are a bit advanced, but you know what? Go in and do the function I just showed you, which was to insert a photo, and play around with it. And you'll figure out which is the right way to get the text around your photo.
Could you tell me again how you chose the place?
Yes, sure. So let me insert one here. So I've moved up a few lines and I hit return. Okay, now I've got a blank space. And I went up here to the menu that said insert. Now that you can also find your insert ribbon, and that might be an easier way. See where it says here picture? Mm-hmm. And so I now drop down and it's saying, where do you want to find that? Do you want to do it from a photo browser, for a picture from a file? And I went out to a file and I found one right here. Here's one of my wife and my son right there from 30 years ago also. The little boy who's a baby in the picture is now 37, so he's gotten a little bit bigger. And I can now grab the corner and make, I want to get that little arrow. There we go. I can make it smaller like that. All right. So, you might find the insert to be an easier way to do it. And, I'm now in the picture formatting. Look, notice how when I put the picture in, it popped up the picture format ribbon. And now there's all sorts of things you can do. Like I said, Word has more functions than you can know what to do with. If I want to make a beveled map white, it'll do that. Look how it now made the photo look like it's got a frame, a mat around it. Isn't that fun? There's just all sorts of things you could do. This would be fun to do if you wanted. I personally, if I was going to create like a printed album of narrating a story, this would be like a way to make it look like you've stuck a picture on. There's probably a way you can format that picture format. Let's click on it. There's probably a way. I bet you can even give you those little like those little black corners like you get from the old mounting albums. I haven't even looked for that, but I'll bet you it's there because I've seen it in people's formatted pictures. They have, those little black corners that they used to put in photo albums, and they were their little picture black corners that they mounted the photo into. We got time for one more question, and I've covered quite a bit of stuff, and I want to make sure. Yes, Edmund.
Could you show us how to merge documents and files?
I don't think I can do that right now, but I can tell you a handy way to do it, Edmund, is to go to one of the documents, click Control A, which will save everything. We'll select the whole document, Control C, which will copy it, and go to the other document you want to put it in, select where you want it to be, Control V. Basically, you're just copying and pasting. That's how you can merge two documents.
All right, thank you.
That's the quick way. There might be another way of doing it, but that's the way I do it.
All right, great.
I call it the down and dirty shortcut way to do it.
That sounds simple enough to me. Thank you.
Russ, were you going to be able to show me margins and how to set custom margins?
Yeah, so you want this to be like for every time you open a document, that the margins
I want it to be so that I can choose it.
Okay, so you go here and
settings.
It's in, so when you're in the home ribbon right here, it's under here, line spacing options. Here are your indents and spacing, line. No, it's not there. Okay.
No, if you go to layout and then you can go to margins.
Yep, it's right here, layout of margins.
So down at the bottom, it's custom margins.
Mm-hmm.
Have to reset it every time.
Yes. See this little thing that says defaults right here?
Yeah,
if you click on default, it says, do you want to change the default settings for page setup? So that's where you would change it.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Just be careful that you want them to always be that way.
Right. Yeah.
That's one thing I like about Word. You can set your defaults. I have my default font set. If you look up here, come back to the home ribbon. Word defaults, they like Calibri and Calibri Light. I don't know why. Those are there. That's the font. They comes built into default in Words. I changed mine to Times New Roman. That's my default font, and I did it under the font. Let's see, that was under formatting font. Okay, and down here in the bottom default, I changed my. It says here my default font is Times New Roman. And then I set that as a default by doing the same thing on the bottom left. Always look for that default button. That way they'll always be that way. So if you want to set your margins always, that's how you do it. Well, I'm going to have to stop sharing here because we're pretty much out of time. You were a great group. Claudia, did you have another question?
Yes, a quick question. In a Word document, can I type something and put the see more where you have the 3 dots? Would it be in a Word document?
Ask me that again. You might.
In some documents where there's more to read and they put see more and then they have the 3 dots. Do you do that in a Word document?
That if I'm not mistaken, that's an XML or HTML function, which is the hyper markup language that you use when you create a web page. That's where I think that is.
Okay.
I know what you're talking about, and I've used it a lot because as a web user, I see it there all the time. Never stop to think how they would format that. I'm almost certain to say that's going to be an HTML function, which is hypertext markup language, HTML.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, Claudia. I wish I had time to entertain more questions because I love teaching this stuff, and you were a great group. Come back next week. It should be next week at the same time. If you want to come back and get another lesson, again, you can watch it online by that asking help at getsetup.io, or you can. I'll see if I can find the YouTube link and I'll put it in the notes at the end. And one nice thing about watching it again, if you watch it on YouTube, you can pause and practice. Something I've noticed a lot of learners doing lately, and I think this is smart, they call into the class on a tablet or an iPhone, and then they've got their computer on the side and they're practicing while I show them something. That's a great way to learn.
Can you tell us how to do it on YouTube?
I will, if I find that link to YouTube, I will send it to you, Vanda. Keep in mind that my class might not be there instantly. It might take anywhere from a few minutes to an hour to get my class up there. So you may have to go back and check.
Okay.
But I found the Get Set Up YouTube channel last night, and I found some of my classes there. So if I can find that, I know I can find it. I'll send it to you, and hopefully you can find the classes there.
Okay,
Is
thank
next
you.
week's class the same as this one, or will you be adding more things to it?
It's a basic class, but if you all would like an intermediate class,
Yes.
suggest it. And here's how you suggest it. You will all get an email at the end of this class with a few notes and feedback. And I love feedback. Tell me ways to make my teaching or this class better. Say in the feedback, we'd like a word intermediate class, and I'll gladly give you a word intermediate class.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Russ.
You're welcome. I enjoyed having you all so much. You're a great class. And I'm doing a class at 4:00 today on, it's a travel class on history, the Celtic history in Europe, if you want to come to that. And I have a whole lot of classes next week. If you go to the Get Set Up page, you all know your basic Get Set Up page, find a class that I'm teaching, or you can even just search under my name, Russ, and you can find all the classes that I'm doing. And I have lots of classes next week on a whole bunch of things. So I look forward to seeing some of you there.
Okay, look forward to it.
Have a great
Okay,
afternoon or morning or whatever time it is for you all, everybody. Bye.
All right.